Welcome to Secret Story. My cousin Vivian traveled home from Canada to see her aging mother just before Christmas, as is customary for her. Since she moved away with her new husband in the 1980s, Vivian and I have maintained a long-term social media connection. Speaking with Viv virtually helped me express things that I used to be too shy to say. Having reached our early 60s now and with separate birthdays right before Christmas, we made plans to get together as soon as she returned home. Vivian was traveling alone and lodging in a hotel close to the assisted living facility where her mother was receiving care. I had recently admitted to Viv that I had fancied her back in our teens. But because we were related, I never asked her out on a date. She admitted she had had the same feelings towards me. Back then, I was a regular visitor to her home, as her father and I had a common interest and spent many hours together. The visits were made all the more enjoyable when Viv was around. Viv was prettier than any of the girls I was dating. We arranged to meet for dinner on her birthday, which was the day before mine, at a restaurant not far from her hotel. I was alone as Tracy, my wife, was attending her work Christmas dinner. We met in the restaurant bar. This was the first time I had seen Viv in the flesh in 40 years. Viv had put on a few pounds, but she was still as beautiful as the last time I saw her. She came smartly dressed in a nice above-the-knee dress with a low-cut top that showed off her wonderful cleavage and a pair of nice patent black heels with black nylons. We dined and chatted. We had common interests in most things, especially music and food. After dinner, we had a few glasses of wine and sat in a cozy booth in the bar. We talked more about our teens and how we both liked each other back then, but we did nothing about it. It was getting late, and I was checking my watch when she said, "Fancy a nightcap back in my hotel room." I knew Tracy would be out late and had a taxi booked to get home, so I agreed. We walked the half-mile or so back to her hotel, arm in arm. Arriving just before midnight. Once in the hotel, we had an awkward look from the receptionist as we walked straight past and into the elevator. Once in the elevator, Viv pinned me against the wall and launched herself at me. I responded but broke off before we reached her floor and questioned what she was doing. She said, "Sorry, but that was 40 years in the making, I had to get it out of my system." I just said, "Okay." We entered her room, which was huge with a massive queen-sized bed. She poured us a glass of wine each, and we sat on the edge of the bed. We chatted more, and once again, her hand ended up on my thigh. I moved away slightly, as this was not what should be happening between cousins. Viv said, "I am just going to get comfortable, please don't leave, I will be right back." Moments later, she returned wearing one of the hotel's big fluffy white robes that were a size too small for her. Viv helped me off with my jacket and loosened my tie to make me feel more comfortable, then she kneeled on the floor and removed my shoes. I said, "What is going on here?" Viv said, "Just make sure you are comfortable. After my shoes." I went to stop her, but she brushed my hands away. Viv said, "Why has it taken us 40 years to get to this stage?" I replied, "I don't know, but it is wrong." "Okay, get dressed then," Viv said. Viv said, "Wow, you certainly are a big boy." Viv smiled. She said, "Mark hates, so please let me know if I am doing this right." 10 minutes in, when Viv stopped, she said, "My jaw is aching. Can I have a rest?" It was my turn. We both collapsed onto the bed. After a few seconds, Viv stopped and said, "Let me know if I am doing it right." I nodded, and she resumed. After we cleaned up and dressed, we finished off a bottle of wine before I had to leave. Viv said, "We must do this again before I have to fly home." I said, "I look forward to it, but I am not sure I have any free time." It was now 3 in the morning, and I arrived home just 20 minutes before Tracy. I had showered and was sitting in the lounge in my robe when she burst through the door in a very drunken state. Tracy wanted, but I was spent. I made the excuse that it was late and she was very drunk, plus she had work in the morning, which she accepted. After Tracy left for work, still slightly worse for wear and with a banging headache, I called Viv. We arranged to meet for lunch near her hotel and invited Tracy to join us during her lunch hour. The three of us had a great lunch and chatted like old friends, although Tracy had never previously met Viv other than through social media. Lunch finished, Tracy returned to work, and Viv went to visit her mother. We arranged to meet back at her hotel later that afternoon. I went off to the gym to kill some time and met back at the hotel at the arranged time. I was all hot and sweaty in my gym gear and needed a shower when we met. We went straight up to her room, and I used her large walk-in shower. I was washing when I was joined by Viv, who was. "You don't mind, do you?" She said this as she closed the door behind her. I said, "Of course not." Viv had a razor in her hand and said, "Please, I want to be like you." I said, "Won't Mark think it strange?" She replied, "He hasn't seen it for months, so he probably won't even notice." She stopped me from continuing as she had become so sensitive and said, "How are you so good at that? I wish Mark would give me that sort of attention." Viv then changed places and I said, "Have you been learning new?" She looked at me, stopping momentarily, and said, "I watched some videos on my phone to get an idea of what I should be doing." I said, "Just keep doing what you are, it feels wonderful." A few minutes later, I said, "Wow, that was wonderful." We both cleaned up. I had to get home for Tracy, but we arranged to meet again soon. The following day, Tracy was called into work again, so I gave Viv a call. She said she was free all morning if I wanted to drop by. I got myself sorted and was out of the house minutes later, on my way to see Viv again, more excited about something than I had been in years. Viv met me in the hotel reception. She looked stunning. She was wearing a shorter dress than usual. And she had black seamed nylons on, high-heeled stilettos, and a cream blouse. Viv has long, shapely legs that look great in nylons and heels. She wore makeup as well, and her beauty shone out. I followed Viv into the lift. We made our way to her room. She said, "You mentioned that you have a thing about women in stockings, so I thought I would surprise you." I said, "You look amazing." When she was finished, she kneeled up and said, "You have taught me so much in these past 3 days, things I have been missing out on for years." They still had 2 more days of exploration left before she was due to fly home. After 2 wonderful days together, we are looking forward to next Christmas, when we can do it all again.